The ability to give your service to others does not come easily for everyone. However, John Paddock has always demonstrated this life virtue. John Paddock received his early education in a one-room schoolhouse. This allowed him to learn much quicker because there was 6 grades in one room. He took advantage of the other kids' education. This also gave him important life skills such as communication, leadership, and many more. After 3 years in the schoolhouses joined together to form Jordan Central Schools. A few years later, from Jordan Central Schools formed Jordan Elbridge. John Paddock was actually the last graduating class of Jordan Central Schools. After high school, Mr. Paddock traveled to Syracuse University, where he began studying in math. However, he realized that his real dream was to join the Navy, so he did in his sophomore year.
I always had wanted to be in the Navy, although I'd never seen the ocean. I hadn't even flown in a plane, and so I just simply wanted to go in the Navy because I wanted to be on ships. I had no interest in flying. I had no interest in being in submarines, but I liked being on ships, and I dreamed about being on a destroyer. So I ended up right off the bat, I was on 4 ships.
John Paddock worked on many different ships and went throughout military training before becoming part of the Navy. John Paddock was the ship navigator, operation planner, and other jobs aboard his many travels on many different ships, such as an oiler, destroyer, minesweeper, frigate, guided missile destroyer. Mr. Paddock was typically the navigator of the ship, which took a lot of focus and other life skills, such as concentration under pressure. Because of this, many people try to avoid the position because a mistake could affect the ship and men. Mr. Paddock moved up in rank to Rear Admiral, which is the equivalent to a Major General in the Army.
Have you ever been to Washington, D.C.? Well, John Paddock helps send people to Washington, D.C. every year. It's through a program called the Honor Flight. The Honor Flight is conducted by nonprofit organizations dedicated to transporting as many United States military veterans as possible to see the memorials of their respective war they fought in Washington, D.C., at no cost to the veterans.
Back in January of 2010, we announced that we were going to launch Operation Resolve, that we were going to try to get as many World War II veterans as possible to visit their memorial in Washington, D.C.
John Paddock, along with many other volunteers, has transported several hundred military veterans as mission participants from across our 10-country area. The memorials dedicated to the veterans that can be visited are the World War II Memorial, Korean War Memorial, Vietnam Memorial, and many others. If you know a veteran that fought in a past war, you can enlist them to participate in the program.
The place to find kind people is at a volunteer job. Mr. Paddock, along with Honors Flight, worked in many volunteer jobs. Some of the volunteer jobs that Mr. Paddock has given his time for is Skaneateles Rotary Club Community Chair, for Skaneateles Sea Scouts Ship 23, Skaneateles Town/Village Advisory Committee of Emergency Communications. These are just a couple of the many volunteer jobs that Mr. Paddock has and is still doing today. Overall, Mr. Paddock has given great time and service to many groups and many people throughout his life.